Hey YouTube, this is AC Tech Reviews, and this is my review of the Blackberry Passport Silver Edition. First off, I want to talk about build quality, usability, and my final thoughts on this particular device and Blackberry OS in general. So first off, build quality. I think the phone is actually built really well. It has a steel beveled frame all around the edges. Has these dual stereo speakers in the bottom, and you have your power button on the top, and this amazing touch sensitive QWERTY keyboard that just feels amazing compared to the original Passport, and it's probably the best physical keyboard on any Blackberry device to date. Now, in terms of usability, again, because of the square 4.5-inch screen, I would actually say that for most users, it's a two-handed device. I typically pull my phone out of my pocket and try to navigate with one finger or with one thumb, and it's for the most part to glance at messages. It's doable, but to actually respond is actually quite tricky. So it's definitely a device that you want to be able to take the time and be able to really hammer out your responses or messages. The other great thing about this phone is this touch keyboard allows you to create shortcuts, which no other OS can do that at this point. So for example, I have the letter T to pull up my Twitter, and because of the touch sensitive keyboard, you're able to scroll through your feed, which is actually really useful for one-handed use. So going back to build quality, unlike the original Passport, which had a much softer type leathery material, this one seems to have this kind of textured plastic, which some people find to be grippier, but personally I actually think it's not as grippy, especially in cooler temperatures where the phone is not warm and your hands are cold. I tend to kind of have more of a slippery experience. So if you're a person who uses cases, then that shouldn't be a problem, but I typically do not use cases on my phones, so for me that was a problem. So one other really great feature of the phone is a built-in FM tuner. Now most people stream music and consume a lot of battery and data. However, having an FM tuner built in, and if you have your headphones on, you can stream FM radio, which I do a lot, and it uses far less battery life, and it doesn't consume any of my data. And that's something I think that hopefully more flagship phones will incorporate. I know they do this a lot for emerging markets or the rest of the world, but it would be great if carriers would allow their devices to include FM tuners. So in terms of notification, you will have these icons on your home screen that you can sort of preview what the messages are, and if you tap it one more time, it will take you into the hub and open up the message, which to me feels a little bit dated, considering the only experience I have is with Android. But especially with Android 6.0, you get all your notifications right in your home screen, and you can typically view complete messages without actually going to the app, which I think is pretty useful. But other than that, the Blackberry Hub is an incorporation of the ability to be in a particular app and getting a notification on the top and being able to swipe across and to kind of see what kind of notification that you have. To me, I think it's a little shortcoming because you're only seeing a portion of your notification. You actually have to swipe all the way through to really read a message, whereas I know on Android, when you get a notification in the top, you can actually typically read the whole message without having to do this kind of a two-handed swipe or one-handed two-motion swipe. I think from a few years ago that was really useful, but I think now as some of the other operating systems have matured, I think this feature seems a little bit more obsolete. So here are a few things that I don't like, and they've just kind of emerged in the last week or two of owning the device. One is that Twitter support for some reason now has some bug where images are not showing up on the feed anymore, and it's a known issue, and whether Blackberry is able to address this issue is questionable. The other issue that I had was I used to be able to upload YouTube videos, and their YouTube icon is actually just a link to the mobile site, and I used to be able to upload videos without any issue, but for some reason now it's not working, and the workaround initially was to use the browser, which seems really antiquated, but now that's not working either. So that's two big issues for me, and I fear that as APIs for some of these popular apps get updated, BB10 might kind of struggle keeping up, especially for some of the Android ports that require newer levels of security and runtimes. And I think the runtime on this particular device is only Android 4.3. And yeah, so as apps get upgraded and start phasing out support, I think this platform will start to see some serious problems. And actually, I think that just like a couple days ago, WhatsApp has mentioned on their blog that they will be ending support for BB10 at the end of 2016. So if you're a huge WhatsApp user, which I am, as a cross-platform messenger service, that's going to be a huge hit for BlackBerry 10 as well. So what I really like about this device is the keyboard, and this whole idea of just having a keyboard to really hammer out your messages and to stay in contact with the things that are important to you. And it's also really nice to have a unified inbox with all your phone calls, Twitter feeds, emails, messages, and whatnot. And having a physical keyboard kind of really takes advantage of all your screen real estate. I mean, if you have a typical Android iOS device, it's a 5-inch screen or 5.5-inch screen. I mean, when you have your onboard keyboard pop up, I mean, you're really working with such a small amount of space. Whereas with this phone, you have your full screen real estate to work with, and typing on this keyboard is just amazing. And you have these predictive words that come up, and because it's a touch sensitive keyboard, you're able to swipe up your predicted words, which I do all the time, and the keyboard lights up in low light, so you're able to not blind yourself staring at a keyboard in the dark. And it's just a lot of fun typing on this thing, and I think that's why there's such a huge following, well, a dwindling huge following of BlackBerry fans, is because of this physical keyboard. And if you are a fan of the physical keyboard, this is the device to get. I think it's a lot better than the original Passport. The keys are a lot softer. They don't give you any thumb fatigue, and just the ability to use the keyboard to delete words. I think it's probably one of the best features of this phone. Now, another really cool feature I like about this phone is true universal search. So right from the home screen, you can just start typing away, and it will actually go through your whole device and do a search of like the whole contents of your phone. I think this is really useful if you're trying to figure out what was said in the text message 3 weeks ago with a particular person. It's so easy to do that by just searching using the universal search feature. So just a quick comment on the camera. It's probably one of the best cameras on a BlackBerry device. Maybe not as good as the Priv, but especially with HDR on, I thought that it took some really good photos. For some reason though, HDR is not on by default, so I would typically turn on HDR if I had to take a shot. So I think still shots are great. If you have a lot of motion in your shots, then the HDR could cause some problems because of that slight lag in the shutter speed. So here are some of my final thoughts. If you value communication via email or text messaging, I think this device is unbeatable, because just having a unified inbox and the ability to keep track of all your conversations, I think it's the best phone on the market for that. I personally was using this device to manage my Twitter accounts, and because of the integration hub, it worked really well. My only concern right now is this bug that's popped up in Twitter feeds with images not showing up, and the lack of support being shown by Blackberry is one concern. And my other concern is the lack of support of WhatsApp after 2016. It's kind of a no-go for me, so I will probably have to move on to a different device eventually. But currently, I think if you value messaging, this is definitely a phone for you. On that note too, if you actually have to use certain apps to be productive, like Evernote, or any kind of cloud-based social media type apps that are only available on Android or iOS, I think that you might have some difficulties getting that ported over. I mean, I use WordPress on this device, and for the most part, it works fine. It's an Android app running on a Blackberry 10 device, and it works fine. And in some instances, when I can't use a mobile app, I will, for example, use the web version of it and just have a bookmark on my home screen. And for the most part, depending on what you're trying to do, it works well. Box is also built into the BB10 operating system. I use Box a lot, and so that's a really great thing. It works really well. And I don't really game, so that's not really a problem for me. The phone comes with Amazon App Store built in, and I've installed the Amazon Shopping app, Music app, and Drive. All of them work relatively well, except for the Amazon Drive. The way I upload my photos, it doesn't give me the option to view my photos in a certain way, which is very different from the versions on Android, and I'm not quite sure why it's different. Other than that, here are the App Store and Blackberry World. Again, the versions of the apps available aren't necessarily current with what's available for Android or iOS. So I think, in summary, if you value texting and just emailing, this is a device for you. If you want to play games and be productive in other ways using more integrated apps that are very mature on iOS and Android, then you are probably more likely inclined to pick up one of those devices, or maybe even consider the Android version of or the Blackberry version of Android in their priv. Well, that's it for this review. If you liked it, please subscribe. If you have any questions, you can contact me at AC Tech Reviews on Twitter, or email me at actechreviews@gmail.com. I'll see you guys in the next one.